Alright, welcome to Nonfinito BG and another painting video. So again, limited palette, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, yellow ochre, scarlet red, warm white, and a lamp black. I liked how the ultramarine blue undercoat looked on the last video, so I'm gonna go with that again. Also, we have all those bells and stuff on the back and some armor, so the blue is gonna go nice with that. Alright, a little bit of lamp black, some ultramarine blue, some burnt umber as well. And this is going to go into all the shadow areas. I'm going to be painting this onto all those areas underneath the belly armor, underneath the arms, and all the cracks and crevices of those bells. Almost like the, what's it called? Ambient occlusion? Is that the word? Alright, so ultramarine blue, some warm white, a little bit of that lamp black just to take away that saturation. And some of that burnt umber as well. And a tad bit of scarlet red. Alright, and this is going to go all the areas above all those shadows that I applied to. Right now I'm just kind of doing like the mapping out stage. Alright, a little lamp black, some warm white. I'm just creating a palette right now of all my values. Alright, so we're going to start with that mid-tone and start hitting all those areas. This is a little thicker paint than what I did previously. Those other two applications were washes. This is a little bit more on the thicker side. This is kind of going to be like the color of the armor, of the metal. You know, almost like when you lay down a base skin tone, you go with like what that actual skin tone is, and then you start applying like additional layers for the lighting effects. But this is like the base color, and then the lighter value is going to get where all that light might be being able to start hitting. If you ever feel like there's like, I mean, with armor and any reflective surface, you do want some hard edges, but if you feel like there's a hard edge you don't want, you can just take a dry clean brush and just buffer that out. All right, especially here, you notice I'm putting that brighter value right next to that shadow value, right? And that really sells that that visual effect of like a reflective surface. All right, now we're going in with some burnt umber and just hitting that road and all those wood areas, those wood boards. And then the cross on top as well. All right, and for the parchment, it's just a little bit of that burnt umber and warm white. Try to get that like almost like a, what's the stuff the Egyptians used? Papyrus? A papyrus look. Alright, now we're hitting some of that gold that might be on that shoulder, and that belt buckle. And that's just like a deep yellow lake with some warm white. Bells, just trying to get the reflective effect by just streaking some of that warm white down on those bells. All right, I decided I needed some more shadow, so I'm taking some lamp black wash and just poking it, almost like a panel liner ink effect, just popping it in all those crevices, and it just kind of seeps into the shadow areas. Here, this is how I get those nice blends all the way up through. I add like a wash, I go to the end of the wash and I just buffer it out towards the brightest corner of that staff. And you see I get a nice smooth transition. So I'm using it kind of like almost like a panel liner, you know, if anybody is interested in Gundam, or Gunpla, as they call it. Alright, now moving on to the face, just a little bit of burnt umber with a tad bit of scarlet red just to add some redness to that skin tone, that underskin tone. If you're not comfortable with painting eyes, here's a trick. Just don't do it. All right, I have a micro, like one of those micro pens, and this is how I got all that writing on the parchment. You know, just dabbing it here and there, almost like the gesture of writing, but no actual words. If I put actual words, I think it would look weird. Yeah, just some scribbles, and that's gonna dry off and look pretty good, I think. Alright, again, just an impression of a figure on that wooden panel, like a painting of a figure. I don't want to go into too much detail, right? Your eye and your brain will fill in the rest of the information for you. Now, let's hit those highlights on the face, the cheek, nose, that upper lip, the edge of that ear, and the forehead. Alright, so now it's time to attack that base. So I didn't prime the base, so it's just going to be like that soaking effect that we've been doing with some lampblack and some burnt umber, and I just let that wash soak into the basing material. Alright, and then add a little bit of warm white on my brush, and I just start brushing off the tops of the rocks. Alright, this stuff's pretty cool, this realistic water effects. I just get a straw and kind of just like plug it with my finger, get a few dots out, and then I use like a skewer stick and kind of manipulate it around a little bit. You will need to use a couple of layers for this. Let it dry, add another layer, let it dry, add another layer, because it really shrinks up when it dries up. And some rust effect to finish this model off. Just apply it here and there. I don't want to go overboard with it. All right, and that's gonna come to a close. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, consider like, subscribe, follow, all that. Or if you even learned something, leave a comment. All right, thank you.